Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode number 15 of the Atlas Annuity podcast. I am your host, Marty Becker, and the owner of Atlas Financial Strategies in St. Louis, Missouri. In this episode, I want to talk to you about my Atlas Annuity strategy because I have a lot of people call and ask me, what annuity would you recommend? First of all, none of them, because I don't know anything about you. But I think the main reason people ask me that question right out of the gate is because they just want to know if they're going to be pitched the same annuity that they heard about at the dinner seminar or that they found on Google. So I don't have a quote favorite annuity or favorite company that I just give a blanket recommendation for because every single person who calls me is different. And this is why I don't do dinner seminars because that advisor in that room who is giving just the same recommendation to a room full of very different people is making a huge mistake because that's really no different than a man walking into a clothing store and saying, I need a suit, or a lady walking into a boutique and saying, I need a dress. And then the salesperson says, oh, great, here's the best suit we have hanging over here. Or the lady saying, oh, here's the most popular dress that we sell right here. And then the salesperson's already over at the register ringing up that item for you while counting their commissions. So it doesn't work like that. And wouldn't you want to give a little more input in that situation? Maybe some things to consider in that analogy would be, what time of year are you going to be wearing this outfit? Are you in January or is it July? Is this something that you're going to wear once or is this something that you're going to wear on a regular basis? What's a good color or a good pattern for your skin tone? How do you like your clothes to fit? Do you like a little wiggle room in there or do you want them to fit kind of slim? But instead of those questions being asked and answered, you end up taking home an outfit that doesn't fit right and makes you look ridiculous. And this is exactly what happens when you go to a dinner seminar or talk with someone who is not an expert in annuities. So you get sold on something that is supposedly the best annuity because it has a big bonus or the highest roll up rate or the highest indexing strategy. So therefore, it's being labeled as, quote, the best. Well, the question begs to be asked, best for what and best for whom? So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There is no best annuity. There is only one best annuity for your situation, and we can't determine what that is until we get you into the fitting room. Because I don't care about bonuses, I don't care about roll-up rates, I don't care about caps and participation rates. I only care that this is going to be the best fit for you and the occasion that you're looking to celebrate, which for the vast majority of people is going to be retirement income. So, as usual, what we talk about on this podcast is meant for educational purposes only. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell or trade any type of security, nor is this supposed to be taken as tax advice. Please talk with a licensed advisor before you make any decision. Now, how do I start this Atlas annuity strategy process in my head once someone has reached out to me? Well, first, we're going to go through the educational process so you understand what you're looking at. And then I'm going to do a 30,000 foot overview to find the gaps in your plan, meaning I need to know what you have and what you need and when you need it. Now, one scenario is maybe you don't need anything because I have actually had two separate conversations just in the past month that I told these people, yeah, no matter what you do, whether you do anything with me or not, the amount of money you have and the gaps that you need to fill, it won't matter what happens in the economy. You're going to have plenty of money to last you the rest of your life. So then the question then becomes, can I improve that situation with the Atlas annuity strategy? And I ran scenarios for both of them. And one of the people said, that's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do that? And the other one said, no, thanks. No big deal. It's totally fine because I'm not trying to force annuities down people's throats. You either like my strategies or you don't. If you don't like it, flush it. It's no big deal. Now, another example of trying to fill these gaps is we may have a couple where maybe one of them has a pension and both you and your spouse are collecting Social Security. So you may think that you have enough income. And if you're the type of person who's maybe just looking to protect and grow a portion of your money, you may go to the seminar and hear about an annuity that has a bonus and like a really high cap rate on the S&P 500, and you love it and it all sounds great. However, because the other advisor was so busy selling you on the hype of that product, do you know what they forgot to ask you? Do you have a survivorship on that pension? Meaning, how much will your spouse continue to get if something happens to you? And I can't tell you how many times I've asked that question and they tell me, oh, they still get 50%. Or I've even had people tell me, oh, they don't get anything because we got the most money if we had 0% survivorship. So in that scenario, what you're telling me, if something happens to you, your spouse is going to lose half of your pension and the lower of the two Social Security incomes. They're going to take a 45% reduction on income or more, and you have $400,000 sitting all at risk in the market right now. That's a problem. That's a gap that needs to be filled. And it's the same with maybe a couple that has two Social Securities and maybe some rental property. Now, normally it's the man who manages those properties, but I've met plenty of ladies who own and manage real estate, but the majority of the time it's the husband who manages the properties and collects the rents and does the maintenance and handles all the headaches of owning rentals. And I'll ask the wife, are you going to want to manage these properties if something happens to him? And the majority of the time the answer is hell no. I don't want to deal with that crap. That's another problem. That's another gap that needs to be filled. But here's the most common scenario that I run across. You need a specific amount of interest return to make your plan work. Every time that I look at a client's retirement plan and it shows a consistent 6% return in their portfolio with them taking 4% out for income plus inflation, I just have to shake my head in disbelief. Because here's an example of what that plan actually looks like with a 65-year-old couple that has $500,000 taking 4% of that money with a 2.5% inflation every year. And I apologize if you're listening to this in your car on the podcast, go back and watch this episode on YouTube so you can actually see these charts that I'm showing. Because what I have to do at that point is I have to ask nicely, sir, ma'am, do you honestly believe that you're going to be able to pull over $900,000 in income over the next 30 years and then have $300,000 more than what you started with? Does that seem logical to you? Now, unfortunately, logic doesn't have anything to do with it when it comes to money for most people. It's really all emotion. So, unfortunately, I kind of have to be the bad guy and bring them back down to earth and point out the fact that even if returns work like this, which they don't, because it's completely delusional to think that you won't have any losses over a 30-year period. But what about the management fees? Even if the returns actually work like this, what are we missing? We're missing the management fees in this scenario. Because when you look at this exact same plan and you add in 2% management fees, which most people are paying 2%, are very close to it, even if they don't know it, this exact same situation has a very different outcome. So now the same plan that their advisor said was completely solid must return 6% every single year with no losses ever, just to make sure that you have $25,000 left in your bank account by the time you turn 95. You're basically running out of money. Just that one aspect of calculating the fee into that plan had a $750,000 difference in the outcome, and not in a good way. And again, that's if everything goes perfectly, which we know it won't. But what if the advisor tells you the fees have already been taken into consideration, have been put in that calculation? Now, that same portfolio must return over 8% every single year with no down years ever. So did this scenario just get more believable or less? Do you see where I'm going with this? Is the BS alarm starting to go off in your head? Because even with a 60-40 portfolio that actually does factor in the losses going back to the year 2000, you're completely out of money by the age 90. And this is what is being offered in the financial world, and it's crap. And you know what? It's not your fault. It really isn't. Because when corporate America decided to screw over the middle class and stop offering defined benefit pensions, it literally threw the entire American retirement system out the window. And trust me, I'm no socialist. I don't believe in something for nothing because the whole point of owning a business is to make a profit for you and your investors. And there should be a balance between management and labor. But my God, when you have CEOs making 300 times the amount of money as their employees, and all they're giving you is a 4% match in your 401k, is anyone really shocked that we can't find workers right now? It's a shit deal, and everyone knows it. So now you're forced to go to these advisors because you never wanted to have to deal with this stuff. You never want to understand the financial world. And they tell you that you're going to take the $500,000 that you managed to save for retirement, you're going to pull out $1 million in income and end up with more money than you're starting with 30 years from now. Are you starting to see the problem here? So, what's the solution? We have to start controlling what we can control because we cannot control the market, we cannot control inflation, we cannot control the economy as a whole, and we cannot control how long we're going to need our retirement savings to last us. So those are the wrong things to focus on. However, we can control how much exposure to risk we have. We can control how much guaranteed income or protection that we can use with a contractual guarantee from an annuity company. So I'm going to give you the most simplistic example that I can come up with because I want to keep this short and absorbable. So in that same example that we were talking about earlier, we have a 65-year-old couple with $500,000 saved for retirement. They need an extra $20,000 in income. And at the time of this recording, we can get them a guaranteed lifetime income of $20,000 per year for $280,000. Then they could take that remaining $220,000 and put it in some low-cost index funds that'll track the S&P, and those returns can actually be used to help offset that 2.5% inflation increase that they were looking for, just like in the other plan. So how did this all work out? So even using some of the worst returns of the market, they still have over $200,000 left when they're in their mid-90s, and that's after they would have received $700,000 from the annuity plus $300,000 in inflation offset. And again, that's using some of the worst returns possible from the year 2000 on. So this actually could have worked out a lot better. Now, this is a plan that can actually work with a very high degree of probability because the annuity is doing all the heavy lifting in providing the income. Now, is this a strategy that I would have recommended if you had $5 million? Maybe not. But regardless, whether you have $500,000 or $5 million, it doesn't matter. It works. And how long do you think it took me to come up with this strategy? About 7 minutes. I didn't even have to get creative with this one because sometimes these cases are very straightforward and other times we have to get creative depending on your situation. And that's why I made the video series 20% More Spendable Income in Retirement, because I go through different case studies in great detail, because normally someone can relate to at least one of them and see their situation in it. So in closing, what is the Atlas annuity strategy? It's using all these different techniques with annuities like I talk about in the video series that I just mentioned. But more importantly, the Atlas strategy it's really just about common sense. It's about mitigating as much uncertainty as possible. It's about a personalized plan that fits your situation and then tweaking that plan as many times as we have to until it gives you the peace of mind that you're actually seeking. I named this company Atlas after the Greek mythical Titan that was tasked with holding up the universe to prevent the mortals from being crushed. Now, there's different versions of how or why he became burdened with that responsibility, but all I want you to do is picture that famous statue of him with the weight of the world on his shoulders, because I know that's what a lot of you feel like. You've been working for 30 or 40 years at something that most days you probably didn't enjoy. You got up early in the mornings, you sat in traffic, and maybe you sat in an office, or maybe you did physical labor, or maybe you ran a business. Regardless, there were probably more stressful days than there were not. If you have children, you raise them and all the stress and worry and expense that comes along with that. Or maybe you were dealing with sick parents during that time, but you did it anyway. You kept the train on the tracks because, number one, it was your responsibility to do so. And number two, you knew there was some light at the end of the tunnel. You knew there would be a day to where you would just be able to wake up naturally and not to an alarm. That you would be able just to sit and enjoy a cup of coffee on a Wednesday morning and read a book in peace. You knew there would come a day that you would be able to take a vacation the way you wanted to and not have to worry about being back at any certain time because you had to go to work. And now, maybe you're at the end of that tunnel or you're nearing it, and the reality is setting in that retirement brings a whole nother set of worries with it if you don't have that guaranteed income. You do have to worry about the market. You do have to worry about the economy. You do have to worry about inflation. And now, when the weight of the world should be lifted off your shoulders, you can actually feel it getting even heavier because you're transitioning into another chapter of your life that is completely unknown and getting ready to walk away from your steady income. There is so much uncertainty that comes with walking away from your job or your business and trying to figure out how are you going to make this money last. So I named this company Atlas because I wanted to give my clients a visual representation of taking that weight off of your shoulders and putting it on an industry that has been around for hundreds of years and has survived every war, political administration, and economic crisis that this country has ever seen. And I assure you, it's not because Marty Becker is so smart, but it's because I work in an industry of brilliant people that design these products to give you the peace of mind that you deserve. So everyone, I hope that helped give you an idea of what the Atlas Annuity strategy is all about. I want you to keep that picture of taking the weight of the world off your shoulders and putting it onto somebody else. And I want to thank you for joining me today. If you would, please like and subscribe and share this podcast with someone that you think could benefit from it. And you can always reach out to me if you'd like to see what a personalized Atlas Annuity strategy would look like for you, simply by going to atlasannuity.com and booking a short phone call to get your questions answered. Again, I want to thank you for joining me today. This is Marty Becker, wishing you all the best in your financial education.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Atlas Annuity Podcast. All information presented is for educational purposes only and is not a recommendation to implement any tax strategy, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or transfer any security or insurance products. Atlas Financial Strategies Incorporated is an insurance-only licensed entity, and any decisions to buy or sell securities should be discussed with a licensed securities advisor, and any tax strategy should be discussed with a licensed tax professional. Past performance of any strategies or products mentioned are not a guarantee of future returns. For any other questions or concerns, please go to www.atlasannuity.com.